Hello, STEM girlies. Welcome back to Computer SHeience, the podcast that connects ambitious and driven girls just like you to the trailblazing women of STEM. Our guest for today is an incoming freshman into Harvard University, Safaa Mohammed. A recent grad from Berkmar High School, Safaa plans to explore biomedical and bioengineering in college. So whether you're exploring a career in STEM or just looking for inspiration, this episode is packed with wisdom you won't want to miss. So grab your drinks, grab your matcha, and let's get ready to hear all about Safaa's incredible journey, experiences, and insights from high school. Let's dive right in. Okay, Safaa, let's just get right to it. Can you share with our viewers a little bit about yourself, your work, and what you've majorly been involved with in high school?
Okay, so hi, Kashika. Thank you for having me here. I'm really excited to be here and get to discuss a little bit about myself with you. And so, a little bit about myself is that my name is Safa. I'm from like the Atlanta metropolitan area in the state of Georgia in the United States. I'm currently going into college, like you said. My work is mainly revolving about around just things that I really care about. And so I don't really have a set goal in mind when I try to go out and look for work to do or volunteer work or an internship or anything. I'm just looking for things that are really interesting to me and some things that I'm passionate about. And so when I talk about the activities I did and like what I explored, it's not going to be, oh, I'm just purely doing science. I'm just purely doing coding. I dabbled in a lot of things throughout high school. But some things I did a lot of environmental work through volunteering and also through student organizations. I've done Girls Who Code over the summer, and I've done some stuff with my superintendent and a student advisory council.
We're all very multifaceted here at Computer SHeience, so I'm so glad that you have different interests, and we're so excited to get to know all about them. How did you first realize that you were interested in this climate sector that you talked about? And especially with research, how did you find yourself like, hey, I'm gonna do research and I'm gonna, work in this climate change sector? So how did you figure that out?
I just really like to explore things I'm really passionate about, and climate was one of those things. Because as I was growing up, I knew that climate change and like the changing landscapes that we have, those were things that really excited me, and things about nature and living things and how the earth adapts and how we evolve. Those are things that were really interesting to me over time. And when I was in classes like taking biology in high school and or taking earth science or environmental science, those are classes where you kind of get to find the feel for what you really want to do. I know a lot of people say the high school classes are useless, you're not going to learn a lot from them. But I feel like in high school and in college, through taking classes, that's where you really find out what you want to do. And so because of those classes, I knew that I was really interested in climate, environmental work, and sustainability. And so that's how I ventured into things like climate. I know that I really love doing work with my hands as well, and so I knew that research was the pathway for me. And so I connected some of my passions, and I'm currently doing some work with climate and research as well.
I absolutely love that you took something you liked in school and then were like, hey, this is my authentic passion. So then you worked on fields like that. So that's great. Are you planning on studying something with climate in college? What are you specifically planning on focusing on? Have you thought of that?
I know that I'm really interested in a lot of different areas. Like, I'm interested in biomarkers, biomedical engineering, but I'm also interested in engineering around our Earth. So, beyond just a human body, doing the Earth as well. And so, I haven't really focused in on what I really want to do. I know that I'm really into like engineering, bioengineering as a whole, despite the fact if it's in like the human body or if it's in like we're talking about engineering things for renewable energy. So I really haven't focused in on anything yet. I haven't leaned into anything, which is why I'm doing summer programs and things like that. And I like to do research and things in student organizations to see what I really want to do. And so I think that that's why I'm in college to kind of find what my calling really is.
Yes, of course. I love how you phrase that. So, bioengineering and STEM is widely regarded as demanding fields, right? They require a strong work ethic, they require perseverance. These are qualities we hear about from everyone. But I'm curious, what are some underrated or less talked about traits that you think are equally crucial for success in the STEM fields?
I think being a good team player is really important. So when you think about coding or like software programming and things like that, you don't think, oh, I'm gonna have to go and sit with a bunch of people and talk about what I've made. No, you think that you're just gonna be sitting at home, you're gonna be typing on your computer. But anything in STEM, whether you're doing software engineering or you're trying to build something, you have to work with private investigators, you have to work with your professors and other students to kind of really develop your ideas into one big thing. And we know that a lot of things are really hard to do on your own in the first place. And that's why I think it's really important that you're able to be social, be able to talk to people, and like kind of put your ideas together in order to get the best version of your one idea. So if you're talking about renewable energy sources and you want to build this power adapter or something, my ideas would be great to add to a power adapter, but if I took everyone's ideas because everyone has their own perspectives, then I would be able to build a better power adapter. So that's what I'm kind of talking about. Another quality or like less talked about trait is also being able to just keep trying. And you were talking about perseverance, but I think that the amount of perseverance that you really need isn't talked about enough because when you think perseverance, you're just like, okay, I failed once, I'm going to go try again. If I fail another time, I'll go and try again. But sometimes you just fail all the time. And so I remember when I wanted to get research opportunities in labs when I was in high school, I kept cold emailing and I kept calling and I was like trying to get some type of opportunity, but it was really hard for me. And so that type of perseverance, I never got a research opportunity in high school in the end, but being able to know that I didn't get one and working towards doing something else. Like I went on my own science fair project journey. And so those kind of things, being resilient for what you're doing, that's really important. And so even in math, I know math is really hard for a lot of people, it was hard for me too. I failed like most of my exams. And so in the end, I just had to sit down. I had to be resilient and stop avoiding the problem and sit down and really focus in. And that's how I started getting good scores in my math classes.
Yes, thank you for sharing about all of those qualities. I especially love when you said it's not just perseverance, is being resilient. I think when you have one idea, like, hey, I'm gonna, do research at a lab and I want to cold email, when you have one idea and it doesn't work, it's really important to be able to pivot and just be like, there's other routes through this. So I'm so glad that you talked about that. Next, I want to hear a little bit about specifically your work that you've done. I know you're on the executive board for Geckos. Could you expand on this experience a bit for us? Tell us what Geckos is, what it stands for.
Definitely. So, Geckos is basically a district-wide student-led organization for environmental work in the county where I live. And so it stands for, I believe, Gwinnett's Environmentally Concerned Organization of Students. And so it's a few kids, me and a bunch of other kids. I'm not the president, there's someone else who's the president, but we all call ourselves together the executive board. And so, what we did was we basically organize student engagement activities and things to get different students in my county kind of participating in environmental work. So we would have to promote like cleanups and river restoration projects and things like that. And we would work with our sponsors, which are like the soil and water conservation district in my area. And so we would have to kind of plan events and think about ways we could get funding and things like that. And so one thing we did, well, there are two things. Um, One thing we did in fall of 2024, I believe, was we held a relief drive for students, not students, but in general, the population that was affected after Hurricane Helene hit in North Carolina. And so we organized a whole relief drive. We targeted a list of materials and donations we needed. We made sure to make promotional materials, and then we got through to our organizations at our respective schools and then we gathered a bunch of donations, and in the end we had a lot of donations, and so we had to organize them into boxes, and then we had to send them to North Carolina, and that was one project we did. Another project we did to get students more engaged in the environment where I live was we started an internship program where students can apply and then they can go on field trips and work on environmental projects and things like that throughout the county. And so the whole organization is just to get students more engaged in the environment, think about living more sustainably, and just being more conscious about their decisions.
Wow, that sounds like such an amazing organization. So, with this, you talked about having to plan a lot, right? To host these drives, to host these fundraisers, you probably had to use a lot of leadership skills, a lot of team building, delegation. So, how do you think this has helped you become a better leader? Because you're on the executive board, right? How do you approach scenarios now and how do you talk to people a little bit better?
I definitely do think it was really transformative. I believe that every opportunity that comes to you is for a reason, and that everything that happens to you is a learning experience, right? And so being on the executive board for Geckos was like I really had to learn how to talk to people because all these kids that were on the board with me, they came from different schools. They came from different areas. We didn't live very close to each other. We didn't go to the same schools. And so I really had to learn how to like cooperate and talk to people and not be scared to kind of put myself out there and try to connect with other people on a deeper level. And also, I had to make sure to communicate what my ideas were, making sure my voice was heard, while also being able to listen to what everyone else said. And so, because I was put in that situation where I had to go and I had to get ideas from other kids and contribute my own ideas so that we could all plan these projects and make these things happen, that was really important so that I could develop my leadership skills. And it's really hard sometimes to kind of time manage everything. And also, putting yourself out there is just in itself a really hard task. But that's what you have to do as a leader. And so I think putting yourselves in situations where you have to like sit down and actually talk to people and actually talk about what your ideas are rather than just sitting there, I think that makes a really big difference in who you become and how you develop as a leader, even if it's just working as part of your group for your project and things like that. Things Everything teaches you leadership skills whether you believe it or not. And you just have to go and be willing to put yourself out there.
Yes, there's so much depth in how you phrase that. So that is amazing. Which specific activity or instance in high school, whether that's with geckos or just anything else, do you think has transformed you the most?
Specific activity. This is a kind of tough one, but I can't think of one specific activity, but there's something that contributed quite a lot. And that was just putting myself out there in terms of who I was becoming as part of my friend group, who I was to my teachers and things like that. And so when I think about what transformed me in high school, I don't really think of an activity or an instance per se. I think more of the collection, like all those things that I did in high school that kind of changed who I was incrementally. Because I was a very closed off student at the beginning when I entered high school. I didn't really want to talk to anyone. I was afraid to talk to teachers. And so I think that over time it's just something that you develop, not rather an instant or an activity. But I think that in the end, when you get into your junior or your senior year, it might culminate in you trying to lead clubs and things like that. But I think that you have to make the transformation process throughout high school. And so when I first got in, like I said, I was closed off, but over time, I had to kind of talk to kids in my classes. I had to work with them on things. I had to kind of overcome my fears and ask, what did you think about this question on the test? Things like that. And so when you slowly start putting yourself out there a little bit more and more, you kind of build this momentum where you feel like, okay, I might be able to feel more confident applying to like this club position or this volunteer organization. And so I think the culmination of my like over time how I kind of put myself out there in high school was when I became president of my school's beta club. I was a part of the club for like 2 years before that, and I was like trying to get put myself out there when we did volunteer work and stuff like that. I would go and I would try to talk to people and I would try to have fun and those kind of things where I was just being dedicated to just really becoming the person I really want to be by putting myself out there. I was able to apply for this presidential position without really feeling as nervous as I could have been if I was applying in like my freshman year. And so I think that being president of that club, it kind of showed me that I have grown so much in such a short amount of time, and that the transformation process is a long one. So not just something like one leadership position will change your life. It's something that you have to make an effort for a really long time.
Of course, I love that. I'm really glad that you talked about incremental changes. You know how people say you do one, like get 1% better each day, and then over the year, you're like, it's either like 30 or 40% better. So that is so true, and I totally agree with you on that. You've done a lot in high school, right? With such a busy life, exploring all your passions, taking all these classes, how did you balance your time between school, extracurriculars, and your personal friends and family time?
I think that there is no such thing as like a perfect balance. Nothing is going to be done if you try to balance everything out perfectly, because it's really hard to schedule things and everything just keeps popping up. And so I think that when you have something to do, just get it done right away. I was pretty bad with procrastination, but if there's one thing I learned is that when you get a homework assignment or if you have a project to work on, the moment you get that project and the moment you have free time, whether it be in class, whether it be on the bus, things like that, you have to find that time and you have to do as much as you can with your time, right? So I remember in my freshman year, I was a really bad procrastinator. But one thing I did was that I would work on my homework on the bus on the way to school in the mornings. So I would have my little flashlight on for my phone and I would be writing down with my other hand and I would be doing my homework on the bus. And so there's like little increments of time that you really don't notice are passing, and that's when you can really utilize your time the best. So, for example, you could schedule maybe your lunchtime and being able to talk to your family at the same time. It's just really trying to think about, okay, how can I make this to a point where I'm using every moment wisely? But you also have to make sure that you're resting, and whenever you schedule things, on my like Google Calendar, I always like to leave like a 30-minute break or a 15-minute break between things, because you always have to let your mind kind of shift naturally without forcing it to do something else. I really found that kind of not perfect, but it was a balance by doing whatever I could in the time slots that I had and allowing my brain to shift between different tasks. And so, for example, when I came home from school, I would let myself sleep for a little bit, I would let myself rest, and then I would feel way more energized to go and spend more time working on my schoolwork and things like that without feeling tired in between, right? And so you have to think about where can I squeeze in the most activity and what times I may need to space myself out a little bit more.
Yes, using each moment to its fullest is definitely so important. And then scheduling breaks on Google Calendar. I am such a big fan of using calendars. I personally prefer Apple Calendar, but I use Google Calendar all the time as well. Scheduling breaks is something I've only started doing in like the past few months. And it's so nice because if you don't schedule these breaks and you're not able to go to your next task, then it's like a downward spiral for the rest of the day. So scheduling breaks is highly, highly important. Super recommend, highly recommend that. Uh, I love the stage that you are right now. You recently graduated high school and you're about to head into college. This is such a useful stage to kind of highlighting and showcasing the bridge between high school and college. And so now that you've lived through it all, I'm sure you understand that high school years can be incredibly formative. Are there any specific opportunities that come to mind that you think you leveraged during high school that got you to where you are today?
Oh, this is a tough question. Um, I do think that there were quite a few things I did during high school that helped me get to where I am today. Um, One opportunity that people don't talk about enough are your friends. Your friends are one of the biggest opportunities you could ever have. And so being able to connect with different people, because if they're having an event at their like religious place or they're trying to go do this work in like another county or something like that, they're going to tell you about those things. They're going to tell you, oh, I'm doing this. You want to come along? Or I'm applying for this job. Do you want to try too? And so that's how you get not opportunities per se, but like work that you can do. And so that's where you can find, volunteer work, you want to do studying for tests, and that's the biggest opportunity of it all is your friends because they really push you to do your best work. They give you different ideas for what to do and things like that. For me, my friends really helped me like kind of figure out how LinkedIn worked, how networking worked, and things like that. And that was like the opportunity for me to kind of put myself out there. I keep talking about putting myself out there, but that was like the biggest thing I had to do. And some other things I did, I participated in my counties, like my school district superintendent advisory council. I got to talk about my experiences at school and some problems I encountered and how we could work to maybe fix those problems in the school system, in the school district. And that was definitely something that kind of helped me really be able to talk to other people because everyone there were a lot of people there, and there were a lot of people I didn't know. I didn't know a singular person there. And so I really had to kind of talk and I had to push myself to do these things I didn't really want to do, but I had to kind of take advantage of. And then another thing that I really enjoyed was the opportunity to do Girls Who Code for the summer. And so I think that really helped me kind of learn how to not just program, but also problem solving and just being able to take like a tutorial but also making it myself, putting my own personal touch on it and progressing it a little further than what the tutorial gives you. And so those are some things that you can leverage to kind of learn more than just the technical skills, but also being able to enhance the way you think and the way you approach things.
Oh, yeah. I especially like that you talked about your friends, picking your friends wisely, not just your friends, just anybody that you allow yourself to talk to, that you're with, that's in your energy sphere is so important because you are going to become, whether you like it or not, like the people that you hang around. The chameleon effect is so real. You talked about knowing about new opportunities. It definitely broadens your perspective on just all the different things you can do. So, really, really like that. And then I know you said putting yourself out there. Putting yourself out there is probably like the best piece of advice one could receive. No matter how many times you say it, it's still equally as important. And so I was thinking about this. The more that you're okay with yourself, with your values, with what you like, the more you can really put yourself out there. And the better, the more confident that you become in yourself, you can really just talk about yourself. Again, putting yourself out there is the best way to phrase that. And just tell everybody what you think, what your goals are, what your values are, what you want to do. And so that really, really helps. That is a great piece of advice.
Thank
Now,
you.
with any amount of success, with any amount of success, any amount of learnings that you've received, obviously challenges and failures are the backbone to that. Can you share a time where you faced a significant obstacle in your journey and how you overcame that?
Sure. So, if I think about it, there are a lot of challenges I faced throughout my time in high school. It was like from the friends I was with to like being able to manage everything at once. One thing that really like kind of got me during high school was basically the people I chose to be around. And one of those obstacles was how I kind of surrounded myself with the wrong friend group and the wrong people. And so I kind of got stuck into this loop where I wasn't really doing anything for myself. I was doing things for other people and I was just doing things that weren't really me. And so that kind of pushed me back a little bit from my path to where I was supposed to be. I overcame that kind of journey, that kind of obstacle by really just kind of thinking about who I really want to surround myself with. So I was thinking, how do these people make me feel? How do these people make me feel inspired or motivated? What do they make me want to do? And so by thinking about that, you kind of get to know like who you should and shouldn't be around. And so when you get to kind of like think about that, I overcame it by just allowing myself to kind of distance myself from people that I realized that were not a good influence on me. And so over time, I would just kind of like stop really talking to them. I would try to talk to other people, and I just kind of not really try to focus on those people at all. And so, you really just have to overcome it by being confident in yourself and your beliefs, and you knowing who you want to be around, and you actually have to distance from them, which is really hard sometimes, especially if there's someone close to you. But it's for your own good, and you have to have that kind of power and that strength in you to know when to let go. And so I think a lot of people, a lot of high schoolers especially, they get caught up in the wrong groups. They think that, oh, I want to try to fit in, I want to do whatever I can to be part of this group. They're going to do things that they wouldn't have thought they would do at that moment. And so you really have to just know, like, kind of push back a little bit, think to yourself, wait, am I where I want to be? Are these people helping me where I want to be right now? And you just have to go and adjust your lifestyle based on that, because you always have changing priorities, and sometimes some friends not may not be the best for those type of priorities that you're changing into. And so you have to kind of learn to let go.
Definitely. It's so important to reflect on the course that your life's taking. And I like that you said reflect on how you feel around certain types of people. That is so, so important and a great tip. So, for my next question, I'm actually going to do a hard pivot. Everyone has these big dreams, everyone wants to do all these cool things, but resisting the temptation to spend away full blocks of time on our phones is a struggle for many. And I know you talked about procrastination earlier. So, what are some tips you would give to your younger self for prioritizing getting work done?
That's a really good question. I still am a little bit of a procrastinator at heart, but if I was to talk to my younger self, I would be telling her to get up, do your work. The best tip I would say is to put that phone down, delete all those social media apps off your phone right now. I know you want to go and you want to post your beach pics or whatever it is, but like sometimes when you actually have exams coming up and things like that, deleting things off your phone can be really, really useful. And I believe that if you really want to build discipline, that's how you start. You may have to start with deleting apps. And over time, you're going to grow a little bit used to it. You're going to be like, okay, even if I don't delete the app, I can still kind of stay off it because I'm developing this kind of mindset where I'm getting used to the point I'm getting used to like the situation where I'm not going to have my social media with me at this very moment in time. And so you'll be more okay with not using it and you'll use it less. So deleting social media apps off your phone, turning off your notifications, I think is really helpful. Like there are so many built-in features on your phone that you don't really think about often. Do not disturb. You can set on specific people that you want to receive calls from. So if you want to receive calls from your parents only, you can turn that on, and basically using those features to kind of block out any noise, any distractions that could like kind of turn you off from doing your work. So like if I'm trying to write my essay and I start getting a call from my friend, I'm going to be really tempted to pick up, right? But if you don't see the call at all, then you're not going to feel tempted to pick it up at all. And so just turning off your notifications, silencing your phone, things like that is going to help you a lot. Another thing to like prioritize getting your work done and not really spend it on devices and things like that, I would say to just kind of like really focus in. And so, regardless if you have your phone next to you or if you have it far away, you have to really be dedicated to the work that you're doing, and you have to believe that your purpose at that very moment is to get that work done. And if you have that mindset switch in you where you think, okay, if I sit down and I write this essay for an hour, I will get it done. And you keep telling yourself that, you will eventually, you might miss that 1 hour mark, but you might get it done in 1 hour and 30 minutes. You might get it done in 2 hours. And so just kind of giving yourself that space. Okay, I'm going to work on it for this amount of time. And if I don't make it and if I don't finish it afterwards, then I might be able to go on my phone or something like that. But in the end, you'll really just want to finish it off in the first place. And so just start. Really just start. Sit down, clean your room, and just start. That's the biggest tip I could give you.
Yes, I absolutely love that. You know, if you have all of these like apps deleted, you have everything downloaded or undownloaded, the main thing is dedication. And I'm really glad you mentioned that because at the end of the day, you can always re-download an app, right? If you don't have the dedication to actually focus on your goals, you can just re-download the app when you want to work on it. I know a lot of people use app blockers and it like makes you wait 30 seconds before opening an app. You can just go and change your settings if you put your phone across the room. People can just go grab their phone. But it's really important to be dedicated because at the end of the day, it's you that has to work, right? So it's really important to have true passion for what you're doing and just have this in your mind that, hey, I'm going to finish my work before getting on my phone. So, really, really amazing that you said that. And this
Thank
brings us
you.
Last question of the podcast. If you could have a heart to heart, girl to girl conversation with an aspiring girl in the STEM and business fields, what real, unfiltered advice would you give her? I know you've already given a bunch of amazing tips. Just one last thing, what would you tell her as a closing?
The whole time I was saying putting yourself out there, my best advice to an aspiring girl in STEM, in business, in anything really, is to stop caring what other people think. That's the biggest thing I could ever tell you is to just stop caring. Oh, you want to start a YouTube channel, but you're scared your friends. No one cares. Like, they're just gonna think about it for a few days. They might think about it for a few minutes, and then they'll forget about it. Like, stop being scared and stop listening to what other people are telling you if they're telling you like bad things. So, for example, if there's someone in your class who keeps telling you, "Oh, you're not gonna make it to this college. You don't have the social skills to adapt to there." And so just kind of shut those things out because those things can be really harmful and damaging to your mindset. They actually limit you because then you might think, okay, he said that I don't have the social skills to do these kind of things, so maybe I shouldn't apply for the summer program right now. Maybe I should wait for a little bit for myself to develop. No! Start right now because regardless of what anyone is telling you, you know yourself the best, and if you push yourself, you will prove everyone wrong, right? And so, if you keep trying to listen to all these negative talks and negative thoughts in your head and what other people are telling you will be so consumed with it that you will limit every single thing that you do unconsciously. You won't even realize it. Like, if someone told you that they thought your work in, if you did like a science fair project on water cleaning or water filtering, and they thought that your research was kind of like childish or that it wasn't at the level that they really thought you would have it, then you might try to confine yourself there. You might think, okay, maybe water filtering or water cleaning isn't my topic. Maybe I'm just thinking about it at too low of a level. Maybe I should move on to other things. If you're really passionate about it, you're letting those people get to your head and you don't even realize it. You want to stop caring, right? You have to put yourself out there, like I said like a million times already. You have to put yourself out there without giving any type of like thought to it. Stop thinking about what other people will say or what other people will do in reaction to what you're doing. You just have to put yourself out there. Even if you're alone, even if you have to do something all by yourself in a new city, even if you have to go and do a summer program far away from your home where no one knows you, you have to stop thinking, okay, these people aren't gonna like me, these people are gonna think I'm not cool, I'm not smart enough. You have to put yourself out there, regardless if you think that way. Because if you put yourself out there, I promise you, the right people will push you forward to where you need to be. And so if you think my social skills aren't good enough, if you try and you go and talk to other people and you're putting yourself out there, you're already developing social skills, whether you want to believe it or not. And so just pushing yourself, stop caring about what other people think, stop being so anxious about their thoughts or ideas or opinions of you. Because in the end, it's just you that's going to work for yourself. They're not going to do anything for you. When you have to go and you have to make your rent, or you want to go and you want to pursue grad school, they're not going to be the ones who are applying for you. The only one who is going to apply is yourself. And so you have to go and you have to go talk to people, go and try new things regardless of what other people are saying. Because in the end, only what you do will affect how you proceed in the future and not what other people say.
Absolutely. There couldn't be a better way to close the podcast. I think our theme today is putting yourself out there. I love that. A huge thank you to you, Safa, for being so open and authentic with us today. Your stories, your tips, and your unfiltered advice were absolutely inspiring and so motivational. It was such a huge privilege to have you on Computer Science. To all our listeners, thank you guys for tuning in. Don't forget to subscribe, share this episode with your friends, and leave us a review. It helps us connect more ambitious girls to amazing STEM role models. Until next time, keep reaching for the stars and chasing those dreams. See you soon on Computer Science.